Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio series, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder. And our program today, Michael and I are going to explain how to grow your brain.
How to grow your brain, and we mean literally grow your brain, not just its capacity, not just the proliferation of blood veins and capillaries, not just the proliferation of neurons and nerve endings. All of that is true, but literally the gray matter itself, a bigger brain, a heavier brain, is available to you if you listen to this program and really want to enjoy all the benefits of a bigger brain, like being smarter and having a better memory, being more creative, more logical, more intuitive.
Yeah, just like you can take a body that is undernourished and underdeveloped and you can exercise it and make it stronger and make a bigger body. Well, the brain is part of the body. You can make a bigger brain. You can actually grow gray brain cells, add neural connections. You can do some amazing things. And we all know that we do this. We all know that if you don't use it, you lose it. You know, we all understand that people who let their brains just sort of go on vacation all the time, they don't get them back. You know, you've got to keep using it. You've got to keep growing it. And so we're going to talk about a whole bunch of ways in the show that you can grow your brain. One of the most basic ways to grow your brain is to get out of stress and into a state that's we call alpha or paradise, but it's essentially the ability to get into what has been called for a long, long time the process of meditation.
If you think about what it is that inhibits your ability to use your brain, that makes you stupid, it's anxiety and stress carried as muscular tension. It frustrates us. It messes with our emotions. It takes away our joy and our happiness and makes us grumpy and more likely to be angry. And in the same way, it inhibits stress, that is, anxiety, tension, whatever you want to call these fear-based emotions. It also inhibits your ability to think logically, to be intelligent, and to have a good memory, and so on. So the enemy is really any fear-based emotional feeling or negative thought. All right? That, in the long run, really degrades your brain. It rots it. And I'll bet if you reflect on some of the people that you know, people that are habitually negative or sourpusses that are never any fun to be around, they're not the brightest bulb in the pack, right? In other words, there's a price to be paid for all that negativity, the negative thinking and the negative feelings as well. So turn it around. The antithesis then, the antidote, would be positive thinking and positive feelings. And let's start with the emotional nature, because I think a lot of folks feel like whether their emotions are negative or positive is not really up to them, that other people make us feel one way or the other. And it's really not true.
Yeah, most people either blame other people or circumstances for their emotions. Like, well, if things were easy, I'd be happy, but things are hard, so I'm unhappy. And of course, there are people who go through things that are hard and are happy, and people who go through things that are very easy unhappily. So it's really, emotions are a choice, because although you don't have a say about the stimulus oftentimes, you have some say. You can put yourself in the right place at the right time sometimes, but oftentimes you don't have a say about the stimulus. Sometimes you get blindsided, but you can always, if you are mindful, take responsibility for your perception and your response, that you can choose to see it in at least the best possible light, in the best mood possible, and to do the best possible thing with it. You know, then you can be happy even when things are hard. You know, the bottom line here is, why does the brain grow when we move into a meditative state? Is because when we move into stress modes, the opposite direction, the brain stops growing. It's pretty simple, really. You take a look, let's start with the body, the physical body. Okay, whenever the physical body is tense, and of course when we have emotional anxiety or mental confusion, it all comes down to the physical body getting tense, the muscles are getting tenser, tighter, and then therefore the blood flow is restricted, and the brain is now getting less blood. It's getting less nutrients, it's getting less oxygen, it's getting a whole lot less of what it needs. When you move into a meditative state, what happens as the confusion moves into a state of clarity, and as the anxiety moves into a state of calmness and peace of mind, and then the body lets go of physical tension, replaced with relaxation, and all of a sudden the blood can flow more freely, and it can get up into the brain, it can oxygenate the brain, it can give the brain all the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals and everything that it needs to be able to grow. So when you reduce physical tension, then you create more blood flow to the brain, more nutrients to the brain, more oxygen to the brain, so much the brain really, really needs. There's much more than that happens, but just on a basic primal level, simply by reducing stress and meditating, the brain gets more food.
Fortunately, there's a lot of great research that's coming out now about avoiding Alzheimer's or delaying the onset of Alzheimer's, because there's still a belief that primarily there's some genetic component or predisposition to Alzheimer's. There may be a number of things going on with it. It could be viral. It could be lifestyle related. There's some concern about exposure to aluminum and whether you use aluminum pots and pans all of your life to cook in. But I know this, that there's really exciting research coming out from a number of institutions, university research institutions and hospitals and elsewhere, that says that simply doing puzzles, in fact, crossword puzzles, just reading books, just staying mentally active, can put off or delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease, senility, dementia. You know, the mind's not really a muscle, but in the sense of use it or lose it, if you don't use it, it'll atrophy and be unavailable to you. That you find with muscles, well, we see that same thing with the brain. You use it or you're going to lose it.
Yeah, the more you test your memory, the more you build your memory's ability to remember more and remember better and remember more clearly, the better your memory will work in the future. The more memory is one of the most basic ways you can see how you can grow your brain, because simply by taking just a few minutes a day, you can actually do some exercises to make your memory better and better and better. I mean, your memory is really excellent now. I mean, you remember more than 1 million things for every one thing you forget now. I mean, you have an incredible memory. But you could remember, for example, if you can remember now 7 digits in a row, like a phone number, well, you could learn to remember 10 or 12 or 15, and by stretching your memory that way. Or if you can remember a dozen items on a shopping list to go to the store without your actual physical list written out, and you can stretch that to 12 or from 12 to 15 or 20. By doing those kinds of things, you can stretch your memory. For example, let's say you wanted to go with a shopping list and remember more things. Well, there's lots of ways of doing that. You can memorize the first letter of each of the items that you want to remember to buy at the supermarket and make a word out of it or make a phrase out of it. You know, like I want to buy carrots and I want to buy apples and I want to buy some whatever it is. I want to create a mnemonic, a way of remembering these things, so I can make pictures in my mind. I can make one big picture of all the different items piled up in a big pile, or I can see myself walking home and taking each of these items out of a bag and putting it into the shelf and putting it away where it goes. Lots of ways to stretch your memory. It's just a matter of taking a few moments here and a few moments there to remember things. One of my favorite things to do is to memorize lyrics to songs. I love to listen to songs a few times and then to sing it the third time, maybe to sing it with the song, and then the fourth time and then really know the song. Great stretching of the memory. Lots of ways of building the brain, but it means taking the time to exercise, and it's a fun exercise to do.
We've done a number of programs in the past in this Finding Yourself in Paradise series, this premium audio series about NeuroLinguistic Programming, or NLP. And you may recall hearing a couple of those programs, and we've talked about people being either kinesthetic, they experience new ideas and memories largely as feelings in their body. The auditory would, well, in a sense, hear voices in their heads. You always have to be careful who you admit that to. And the visual which is real common, especially for active or hyperkinetic people. They're much more likely to be visual. This is pictures in your head. Well, when Steve starts to talk about developing your memory, two words pop into my mind right away: silly pictures. So, the sillier, the better. And you can reinforce them with an auditory sound or a feeling in your body for sure. But I was just thinking about this car that I bought in 1984. It may have been my favorite car that I ever owned. It was a Ford Thunderbird. It was a 5-speed.
Oh, the one where you open the car door with numbers on the... I remember that car.
You've anticipated exactly where I'm going. Do you remember the combination?
On your car?
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever knew the combination on your car.
I'm going to tell you how I'll remember it forever. I mean, what was 84? 30 years ago? Almost 30 years ago. And yet I haven't had the car for more than 20 years, and I still remember the combination.
Cool.
Why? Silly picture. I could have reset it. You had the ability to push some numbers and reset it and lock it in, but I stayed with the factory code because as soon as I saw it, I thought, I like these numbers. This is easy to remember. And let's see if you know why. The numbers were 74875.
Oh, okay. So you saw the number 74 eating the number 75.
Exactly. 75 being devoured by the number 74.
Yeah.
And how can you forget that? Right now, everybody listening to this podcast will remember those numbers forevermore. Mnemonics really work. I grew up in Michigan around the Great Lakes, and yet it wasn't until somebody taught me the mnemonic HOMES, HOMES. And I pictured houses all around the Great Lakes, wherever you go. Little shoreline houses, beach houses, houses on the bluff overlooking the lake. Everywhere you go around all the Great Lakes were homes. And HOMES stands for Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. Well, now, once you've been exposed to those names, it's so much easier to remember if you have a key, a mnemonic like Holmes. All I have to do is, let's see, at one time I knew, the houses, there they are. Oh, they're homes. Oh, yeah, Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. It's really quite easy.
It's fun. The brain likes to do things that are kind of fun like that, to make stuff up. You know, another thing that sort of stretches the mind and allows it to have fun is rhyme. You know, making rhymes up. Something I've loved to do all my life. Writing out little poems. You know, it's a wonderful thing to do in a relationship, to write a little, 4-line love poem to your spouse. You know, just a sweet little "I love you," and if it rhymes, like roses are red, violets are blue. Most poems rhyme, but this one doesn't, or something. You know, something different or unusual. It's lots of fun. And looking for the rhyme, whenever you finish a sentence and you need to rhyme the next sentence, the exercise the mind has in searching through all the words, you know, all the possible words that it could be, you know. So you never want to end a sentence like with orange or purple because, you know, there's no rhymes for that. But you know, you end it with a sound like go away, and then you're thinking, well, let's see, there's bay and there's clay and there's day and there's way and there's may and there's so many different, and you can use your mind running through all the possibilities, and that kind of exercise, thinking about all the possibilities, is a great exercise. Fun. Builds muscles, creates more neural connections, and literally grows gray matter in the brain. Exercising the mind. Jigsaw puzzles, crossword puzzles, Sudoku puzzle, you know, math puzzles, riddles. Riddles are a wonderful way to stretch the brain, to try and figure out. And so is, for those people who have a positive attitude in life, starting a business and solving the puzzles of how to run a business, of how to create a successful business.
I got to ask you, what's a Sudoku puzzle?
Oh, that's where you have to put all the numbers going in every direction, diagonally, vertically, and horizontally. All have to add up to the same amount, and they give you a certain number of numbers already there, and you got to figure what numbers 1 through 9 go in all those other boxes.
Oh, so in a way, it's like numerical crossword puzzle.
Yeah, very much like that.
Cross-number puzzle.
Yeah, it's a cross-number puzzle.
Yeah. I think even jokes probably
Absolutely
stretch the mind.
Well, because we have to remember them, too, if we want to tell them again. So we have to, find a way to, imprint that punchline in our mind.
Anything that gives you pause, anything that makes you stop and think. Now, ask yourself, are you a person who likes to stop and think? Or do you find it difficult? Do you want everything spoon-fed to you? Because if you do, you're a candidate, if not for Alzheimer's, I don't want to curse anybody here, but certainly a candidate for dementia, should you live long enough, or if that's too big, senility, or just, I hear people...
Lots of senior moments.
I was going to say, I hear people almost proud of the fact, they're pausing, they're stretching, they're trying, they're trying to remember this and the snap in the finger, and then they just give up, right? And make some joke about a senior moment, or I guess I'm getting old or something. Do not accept that, because like anything else in life that you put your attention on, it tends to become self-fulfilling. Why would you do that to yourself?
When you wonder about something, do you go, I want, and let it go, or do you go to the computer and Google it and look it up? That's how you stretch your mind, by looking it up. I was thinking the other day that Michael and I, are in the first generation in history that could have an idea, like a wonder about something, and be able to go look it up at home. Our parents had to go to the library to look it up. We had the World Book. We had Britannica or something. We could actually look it up if we were interested. And I think the difference between those kids who became more intelligent and those kids who settled for not being as intelligent are the ones that looked it up versus the ones that didn't look it up. And I that's exercising the mind, or simply saying, I don't know, I don't care enough. And if you don't care enough, you won't look it up. But if you care enough, look it up. That stretches the mind.
Yeah, you say go home and Google it. With a smartphone, you don't even have to go home.
Exactly. Now, this generation is the first in history that can look it up no matter where they are.
You ever read a dictionary? Just sit down and read a dictionary?
I actually read the encyclopedia when I was a kid.
Really?
In junior high school, I read the encyclopedia.
In any particular order?
Yeah, A to Z. A to Z. Yeah, I read the encyclopedia A to Z. Went very quickly through sections, like 20 pages on arithmetic, and I know arithmetic, so I skimmed some of it. But no, I read the whole thing. Of course, it was a speed reading test for me. It was a challenge of learning how to read faster and faster and faster, because it was okay if I missed anything, and if I did, I could go back and get it, but I just pushed myself to go quicker and quicker. But I never actually sat and read the dictionary. But I have often said, if I was stranded on an island with only one book, I'd have to go with the dictionary, because all the other ones are in there, and I could write, amazingly well.
All the other books are in there.
They're all in there. It's just putting those things together in the right order.
It's just the order that matters.
That's right.
That's very funny. Well, I remember as a boy, there was in this small town I grew up in of about 8,000 people, several drugstores, and one in particular, Bizer Drugs, I remember, B-I-Z-E-R. Bizer's. We would go to Bizer's, and they had a soda fountain. And you could, get sodas and ice cream shakes and all of that. Real malted, remember?
Oh, dude.
Real malted.
With the round stools and all.
Yeah, red leather covered and all of that. And I was sitting there and saw this guy a couple of stools down from me reading a dictionary. And I started talking to him. I don't think I was more than 11 or 12 years old at the time. He was an older fella. I don't know, when you're 11 or 12.
Everybody's an older fella.
They're all adults. And he began to tell me a story about having been in a car accident, and he lost his entire memory. Wow. He'd forgotten everything. And so one of the things he was doing to get his wits back, to learn again, was to read the dictionary. And he read it as you were talking about reading the encyclopedia from beginning to end. He read all the A's, and then he went to B, and then just page by page in order, alphabetical order, went through the dictionary. But I'll tell you the way I used to read the dictionary. And I've often said that I've learned more from reading the dictionary than probably any other single book. And what I would do is follow the synonyms and derivations. So let's say I wanted to understand, what does the word knowledge mean? Now, I knew the word knowledge, right? I know the word know with a K. I even knew the word gnosis with a G. Both are silent. And so I'd look it up, and then I'd look up knowledge, and I would see that it was related to understanding. Or even if it didn't say that, I've got this in my head, understanding. How's knowledge different from understanding? So I'd read knowledge, then I'd go to understanding, and I'd read that. And then I'd learn the word, as a result, conceptualization, or then I'd go to ideation, and just often find myself back at knowledge again, going all the way around the circle. But that would flesh out my understanding. And I still do that to this day. I find it a wonderful exercise. And some of the better dictionaries make it easy because they show you the derivation, what the word came from, the Old English or the Latin or the Italian derivation or wherever this came from. And a lot of good dictionaries will have the antonyms and the synonyms in there. And it's, I think, really a fun, entertaining, and informative way to peruse a dictionary.
That sounds cool. It's almost like making your own thesaurus out of it. It's like creating all the different words that could say things, the same things in different ways. That's really another great way to exercise the mind is writing, because when you talk, you can use volume, intonation, inflection. You can say, I live in a big house, and people will get, but if you write, I live in a big house, people think 2.5 bedrooms, you have to write huge or gigantic or enormous or stupendous or gargantuan or, you have to really stretch your imagination and your vocabulary, and in doing that, as you stretch your vocabulary, you're also building brain muscle. A neat exercise I read about in a book about using puzzles to build the brain, a similar concept would be to imagine yourself maybe sitting at a table, maybe out to dinner with 5 or 6 friends, or maybe 3 couples, or you and your spouse and a couple other couples, and you're having dinner and you're chatting about what's going on in your lives, and imagine it pretty accurately as you've done it before, like what kind of conversations, what are the things you'd be talking about, what would your friend's wife be wearing, what kind of clothes, what's her hairdo look like, get as many of the details clearly in your memory as you can of exactly how it happened or how it could have happened. It doesn't have to be a real thing, but make it seem real, seem exactly real, and down to what you've each ordered for dinner and how it tastes, all the details. And the more clearly you can make that picture, that idea, that concept in your mind, the more you're exercising your mind. And then to take a few moments, relax, and then stretch your mind even more by imagining those same people, you and those same other people, sitting at a dinner table 10 years from now. And age each person 10 years, see how they look 10 years from now. What conversations do you think they'd be having? Maybe they got kids now that they didn't have, or the kids are 10 years older now. Imagine in a great detail, something you've never seen, you've never actually experienced, but by using your imagination to stretch your imagination, those people, what would they be like 10 years from now, and what would they look like, how would they sound, what would they talk about? The more detailed you can make it, the more you stretch your imagination that way, the more you build the mind.
Another way to grow your brain is to use parts of the brain that you may not be using. For example, I got a message early on, I think it was the 7th or 8th grade, an art teacher that should have known better leaned over my shoulder as I was drawing and said, "Michael, I'm sure glad you're good at math and science because you'll never be an artist." And it crushed me in a sense. Not that I ever aspired to be this great artist, but any time after that I thought of drawing or painting, or gee, it would be cool to work with clay and sculpt something, I remembered that voice in my head and thought, well, why bother? I'll never be any good at this. I found out she was wrong, by the way. I did take some art lessons not long ago, and I hired a guy to teach me how to draw, and I did it long enough to prove to myself that I could draw as well as anybody. It's just a matter of working at it.
Well, maybe not as well as anybody, but
well, some
as well as
people
any
have,
old buddy.
Yeah, some people
any
have
average person.
natural talent, of course, but often it's hard to tell because they developed it at such an early age, and your ability to learn anything is accelerated when you're young. So I satisfied that curiosity, but, let's say you've never played music, for example. I'm surprised quite often at the number of people that have no music in their lives. They don't play an instrument. They might tap their feet along to a tune. That's something. To know how to count or to keep time or to dance, for example, you got to have a sense of rhythm, and to feel the music in your body, that's a good beginning. But of course, then there's melody and harmony. There's the skill of playing a particular instrument, a keyboard instrument, a string instrument, a wind instrument. You have to have certain embouchure. It's how you hold your mouth, and you have to develop muscles in your face. You have to learn to read music. Now, that's a whole new talent. That's very different from reading a book, per se. And if you're a keyboard player, well, you've got a treble clef and a bass clef. You've got two hands that are playing two entirely different parts. That's a wonderful way to develop your brain. And you say, wow, that seems so difficult. How could I ever get one hand going and then the other hand doing something else different? I don't think I could do that. That'd be like rubbing my tummy and patting my head. Well, you could do that too if you practice, start slowly. That's really the secret. You got to have the patience to practice slowly. So you hear people on their instruments playing the scales, and it can be sort of difficult to listen to at first, but with a little bit of patience and a little bit of perseverance, that part of the brain responds, and it begins to develop your capacity to learn this new skill. So, again, it's never too late to take up a musical instrument. For $99, you can buy a small keyboard that'll plug into a USB port on your computer. And most people, if they look around, will find there's some software already on your computer or on the internet that you can download, often for free, that'll allow you to play this little keyboard and have some fun. And you can record it, play it back, do sound over sound, and add a drum track. Or Apple has this GarageBand program that comes bundled with all of their computers, and they have these jam packs that you can buy. And, the drum track's already in there. It's great fun. What a wonderful hobby. And you're producing something wonderful that people can enjoy. Music. And let me say this. If you think it's difficult, if you think it's challenging, listen to music that you really like. And I think you'll find that some of the best music, in other words, that really moves you emotionally, is actually quite simple. I think of Eric Clapton, for example, because I admire him as a guitar player. He's one of the best in the genre that I'm interested in, blues and rock and roll. And Clapton, they used to call him slow hand. It was a joke because he was always quite fast. It was amazing in the way he could play the guitar. Some of the early bands, like the Yardbirds and Cream, and the solo work that he was doing early on. But, when he got really, really popular, I think, was when he began to slow it all down. And songs like You Look Wonderful Tonight.
Which was on the album Slow Hand.
Maybe he did slow it down. It's not difficult. These are very simple melody lines that he plays on the guitar, but he's bending the string. He's getting notes that are in between real notes on the keyboard. And then he adds vibrato and tremolo and gets what Clapton fans call the woman sound, the idea of making the instrument sound like a woman is singing. B.B. King is known also for this vibrato or tremolo that mimics the human voice. A really good singer adds that as well. And my point is just that the really sweet and beautiful stuff is often quite simple. For example, you could learn a melody, both hands on the keyboard, in a matter of weeks, like something really beautiful, classical, like Moonlight Sonata. It's very slow and easy to play, so don't be off-put by it. And music is a wonderful way, singing or playing an instrument or learning to dance or any kind of artwork. My teacher was wrong, and if you had that kind of experience, drop it, let it go. You're never too old to learn to express yourself through the arts.
You know, we grow our brain through music, but the same part of our brain that we grow through music, we also grow by learning foreign languages and by doing higher mathematics. It's the same part of the brain. It's really all a new language, music, higher mathematics, a foreign language, all new languages. And we build our brains, grow our brains in that way. But, you know, we can grow our brains in ways other than intellectually, other than by learning new stuff. We can grow our brains emotionally, too. For example, one of the greatest ways to grow your brain is to meditate on compassion, is to just slow down and make your breathing quiet and gentle, and then just think about compassion. Just feel compassion for all the other people in the world and compassion for all the difficult circumstances that everyone has to go through. Just open your heart and just feel compassion. Or another one would be to feel self-love, just to say what you love about yourself over and over again, and feel more passion, more compassion, more love for yourself. Or my favorite, and I think the easiest road of all, is gratitude. I mean, you grow your brain with gratitude, you grow your heart with gratitude. It's so easy to be grateful, to feel appreciation for all the magnificent things there are in the world and for all the blessings that each of us have been given and for when we were born and where we were born and, you know, who we got to be with and who we got to experience. Boy, the gratitude, I think, is the easiest road to happiness, and I think gratitude is one of the wonderful, most magnificent ways to grow your brain. Real gratitude, not just like have an offhand thought about it, but close your eyes, take a deep breath, go to paradise, go to your peaceful place, and then focus on gratitude. Just focus on appreciation, on feeling it. Compassion, love, gratitude, just going into those places, those sweet, sweet places inside, grow your heart and indeed grow your brain.
And there's been a lot of research, especially out of Harvard University in the last few years, about the way in which simple mindfulness literally grows the brain, grows the gray matter, bigger, heavier brain. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. And then, as we said before, also a greater proliferation or profusion of neural endings and capillaries. You need the blood to feed the new brain growth as well. So what's mindfulness? Well, mindfulness, and we just finished our first Maui retreat, which was so much fun and so exciting. Everybody had such a great time. We called it coming to your senses, or simply learning to pay attention. So we would do a series of exercises throughout the week. Every time you find yourself distracted by your thinking, and this is an odd concept for a lot of people. They say, distracted by my thinking, I thought that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Well, sometimes you are supposed to be thinking, but thinking is not necessary to much of what we call living.
I mean, Satchel Paige said, sometimes I sits and thinks, and sometimes I just sits.
And he was a wise man for that.
Indeed.
That's mindfulness. When you're not reading, for example, or studying a map or balancing your checkbook, and you put all that work down, the mind tends to run all by itself. It's sort of like you're in neutral, but the engine's still running 6,000 RPM and burning up a lot of gasoline, and yet you're not in charge of it. Where are those thoughts coming from? Well, instead of reflecting on the thoughts, you can learn to use the breath, to focus on the breath, and then to go to a place of paying attention to your physical senses and sensations. What am I seeing right now?
Not what do I think about what I'm seeing.
Right.
Not how do I judge what I'm seeing. Just simply acknowledging what am I seeing right
and
now.
What am I hearing, and what am I smelling, and what am I feeling? We did an exercise that I thought was really interesting toward the end of the week, where everybody had a chance already to meet other people and to know pretty well everybody else in the group that came to our retreat. And we asked them to take just 2 minutes to look at each other without speaking, right? And what we found was that we tend to use our speech as a protection, that as long as we talk to the person we look at, we're comfortable. But if you just look at a person, even if you know them really well, and not say anything, there's something uncomfortable about it. What is that? Well, it's called intimacy. You're getting closer because the words, the language, were keeping you apart, keeping you an arm's length away and a comfortable distance. But to engage a person with your vision, to pay attention, and not say anything can be a very uncomfortable situation. I don't mean listening, because they're not talking either in this situation. Just to be mindfully aware of, am I really seeing this person, or am I looking at my thoughts of them, or my thoughts about them? And I can guarantee you that whoever you are in listening to this program, the vast majority of the time when you look at a person, whether you speak to them or not, what you're looking at is your experience of them. You're looking at your thoughts about them. You're looking through what John Kabat-Zinn says are your dream glasses. And so your perception of them, of course, is colored or skewed or offset by your experience of this person, or this person reminds you of somebody that biases you or prejudices you, and to really, be able to let that go and engage a person directly and objectively for who they really are, to take off those dream glasses, so to speak, that's definitely going to grow your brain.
One of the secrets we were talking about in terms of mindfulness in this week-long seminar we just finished was that it's really not an issue of getting distracted or going away from what you're paying attention to, because that's going to happen. I mean, it's inevitable. Nobody pays attention to anything forever. Nobody has a million-year-long attention span. We're going to go away. The question is, how quickly can we come back? That's the secret to mindfulness, is how quickly can we come back. Because let's use the metaphor of, you've got a stick and a plate on the top of it, and you start to, spin the plate on top of the stick, and that's your idea, and then you're getting it going better and better and better, and now you're really, really getting that thing going good. And then your mind goes off, a distraction happens, which means you're setting up another stick with another plate. Well, if you just set that plate up and then go right back to the other one, a second later, an instant later, you haven't lost any momentum in that first plate. But if you go off to that second plate and get it started and then going and going and going and going and going, when you need to come back to that first plate, it's slowed down a lot. And now we have to speed it back up again and again and again and get back to where we were. The longer you go away for, the longer it takes to get back to where you left off. The shorter you go away for, the quicker you can get back to where you left off. So by paying attention to something for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 is a really long time for most people, but for whatever, 2, 3, 5, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, you go away for a few seconds, you can come right back. You go away for a few minutes, it's really hard and takes a lot of effort to come back. So building the mind's muscle and its ability to come back from distractions quickly is one of the greatest ways, I think, to create mindfulness and to grow the brain.
And, of course, if you get too many of those plates spinning, you're just going to be stressed out. It's a great way to avoid life if you're sure that's what you want to do, miss out on life. But if you reflect upon it, you want to pay attention. You want to be here now and taste the richness of it. I'd like you to consider and listen to some of our past programs in the Focused Passion Archive on mindfulness, and consider that most of your thoughts are distractions that take you away from the richness and the joy of living your life fully, right here, right now, free from judgment. That's another thing that drags us down, is having to judge everything as good or bad or right or wrong, or am I a winner? Do other people like me? Am I a loser? That's just so exhausting and a distraction. So bring yourself back to the moment.
An exercise that I did a long time ago, and I'm talking maybe in my early 20s, when I was first studying hypnotherapy, and I wanted to grow my brain. I literally was thinking about the idea of growing my brain. I was 19, 20 years old, and I wanted to be, I was smart, but I wanted to be even smarter. And so they were teaching how you visualize what you want to create in basic hypnotherapy training. And so I did this exercise in my mind where I actually grew my brain. I watched my brain get bigger and bigger, and like adding a little layer here, a little layer there. Like pumping up the muscle, like building. It was really a cool exercise. So I thought, that might be a fun thing to do as we do our guided imagery, is to help people actually imagine what they really do want to do, which is build a stronger, healthier, happier, more powerful brain. So the first thing you have to do is leave your stress behind. It'll be there when you come back. Maybe it'll be diminished a bit, but it'll be there when you come back. What you need to do for now, though, is realize that you're absolutely safe as you close your eyes, and that any problems that you have in your life will not be needed to be attended to right now. You can take a deep breath or two, make it 3 deep breaths. Release. Find the center of your core, that feeling of inner peace radiating outward, feeling peaceful all the way through. Relaxing into this paradise place that you find inside of you.
Create and sense a feeling of letting go throughout your body. I find it helps me to think of myself as being like a stick of butter on a warm day that doesn't melt, doesn't change shape or form, just feels as if I'm softening slowly toward the core of my being. See if you can feel that same kind of softening. Let your muscles relax and unwind. Imagine throughout your body little arteries and veins and capillaries are dilating as your muscles relax. And so blood moves with less resistance as you release muscular tension.
And now in your imagination, create a visualization or simply a conceptualization of your brain. It could be as you imagine your brain actually looks, or it could be like a cartoon version of your brain, a picture of a brain, but it represents clearly to your brain. And if you know the brain and you know what areas of the brain control what, you could actually do this literally. But for the majority of people who don't, just pick a part of the brain that you think refers to your ability to solve problems. Some part of the brain that you think, just in your imagination, if it were stronger and bigger, it would be an even better problem solver. And imagine that part of your brain. Maybe it's the very front, or maybe it's the left side. Some part of your brain, some picture in your mind of a part of your brain, like you're pumping a little more blood in there, and you're pumping a little more nutrients in there, and you're exercising a little. And imagine it getting actually bigger. That little part of your brain that's specifically about solving problems is getting bigger, it's getting stronger, it's getting better. And you'll notice every time from now on that you solve a problem, you'll just notice how you did a better job than you did before, and the next time an even better job. Picture that part of your brain that is involved with problem solving growing, and your ability to solve problems will grow as well.
You could even imagine the brain like a muscle. We've already said it's really not a muscle, but it behaves like a muscle. If you don't use it, it atrophies. So maybe you could imagine like a muscle shirt on your brain. It says Gold's Gym across the front, and it's lifting weights. The muscle's lifting weights, and it's perspiring, but it's getting all oxygenated. And you know from times you work out that after the first 10 minutes or so, you sort of get a second wind, and the endorphins and serotonins are flowing now, and you're feeling really vital and alive. Imagine that in the brain as it gets stronger. Your brain is pumping iron. No girly men in this brain. You're getting stronger and stronger. And if you're a guy, you can think of really bulking up like a He-Man. And if you're a woman, you can think of the kind of fit and trim yet strong body from the core out. It's an intention that you're sending to the mind, which expresses through the brain. So these can be silly pictures. The important thing is that you bring to bear the powerful forces of passion, of focused passion. You care. You believe, you have faith, you feel the feeling of strengthening your brain. And that includes some affirmations. I'm getting smarter every day. My memory is improving. Every morning when I wake up, my brain is going to be bigger. Whatever occurs to you, say it in whatever way you wish, as long as it's positive, as long as you're passionate, and then repeat it over and over again. These positive affirmations combined with visualization, even if they're silly pictures, are going to grow your brain.
And now imagine yourself a year from today with a brain that has grown a lot larger. And you're better at solving problems and better at remembering and learning and growing and remembering and knowing. You're smarter. You're sharper. Your mind is more clear. And you feel a lot more love and quite a bit less fear. Imagine yourself a year from today with your mind bigger, stronger. And you can remember things and focus on things, come back quickly and stay there longer. Imagine yourself brighter and sharper and smarter than you've ever been. And imagine your brain is growing right now. Right now, the process can begin.
Reorient yourself to the sound of our voices. Prepare in a moment to open your eyes, wide awake, alert, feeling rested, stronger than before, with a bigger brain, really brighter, smarter, better memory, more creative, more sensitive. As you inhale, nice big slow deep breath, hold as you peak, and now as you exhale, open your eyes, wide awake, alert, back in the room, feeling fine, better than before. I bet you grew your brain.
Yeah, and speaking about feeling fine, Michael and I are feeling fine, having just completed that incredible Maui mindfulness retreat. What a week. Well, that was 5 days, actually. What an amazing experience. We had people from all walks of life coming together and sharing and being a family by the end and just experiencing the magnificence of nature. The things that are out of your control, you don't know, like, are the people going to get along with each other? And they got along like a family. Well, not like a family. That's dysfunctional. They got along better than a family. And, how's the weather going to be? It was so perfect. It rained some, but it rained at the right times, and it was sunny at the right times. It was so beautiful. And we had people experience, a lot of self-love and a lot of mindfulness, a lot of sucking in the beauty, the sights and sounds and smells and tastes and all that paradise stuff, and anchoring into their bodies. And they walked away with that experience of paradise lives within me now. I mean, in the middle of a snowstorm, in the middle of a traffic jam, in the middle of a busy, hairy meeting, they can still take a moment and know paradise lives within me now.
If you're on Facebook, you want to look up Steve and me, Steve Snyder, Michael Benner, either one or both, and send us a friend request so we can get hooked up. We'll make sure that you get the newsletter that goes out every week, the Personal Empowerment Newsletter, and then you'll know about the next Maui Mindfulness Retreat and the other events and programs that we do. So we're on Twitter too, but that's sort of chaotic and confusing. Facebook is much easier to manage, I think. So join the 500 million people that are already on Facebook and keep track of us that way. There's also an Ageless Wisdom Mystery School page where you can get a special newsletter and keep track of what we do every Sunday afternoon on the webinar, which is also podcast, by the way. So next time you're on Facebook, look up Stephen Snyder. You know him by, he's the Stephen Snyder in Hawaii, and Michael Benner, he's the Michael Benner in Hawaii. And send us a friend request, and we'll respond, and we'll be all hooked up so you can follow us that way.
Very cool. And we just posted some pictures on the Facebook about the incredible seminar we just had. So if you want to know more about that, listen to the show that we did a few weeks ago on the retreat. We talked about what it was going to be like. It was an amazing experience. We hope to do it again, and just found it to be very wonderful. The food was spectacular. The people were wonderful. The mindfulness was very, very sweet.
So thanks for listening. Join us next week, and as always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.